Welcome to a brand new episode of the Story of My Pet podcast. I am your host, Julie Marty Pearson, and I am super excited to bring you this new episode, which is also a special episode that is a part of a global event happening right now in the podcasting world called Podcasthon. Is about convincing as many hosts of podcasts as possible to dedicate one episode of their show to a charity of their choice. We are releasing these episodes simultaneously in a coordinated effort right now in March of 2026. The intention is to create a massive and international wave of inspiring audio content. We are doing all of this to raise awareness for a large number of charities worldwide. I have participated in this event before, and it is very near and dear to my heart, as the purpose of the Story of My Pet is to advocate and educate for animal rescue, fostering, and adoption. In this episode, I interviewed Tammy, who is a volunteer with the rescue Love Your Feral Feline. Love Your Feral Feline is a small but mighty rescue servicing the San Diego County area in California. They do so much for cats and kittens in their area, from finding fosters and adopters for the cats in their care, to coordinate trap, neuter, and return efforts in the county, and providing a safe space for cats and kittens to grow and thrive and find their forever homes. Thank you so much for being here and supporting the podcast. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Hello, my friends and fellow animal lovers. Welcome to a new episode of the Story of My Pet podcast. I am your host, Julie Marty Pearson, as always, and I am very happy to welcome a new guest to the podcast, Tammy Kaehler. Tammy, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So Tammy is coming to us from San Diego, California area. And her and I connected at CatCon this year, which, if you know, you know. If you're a cat lover, CatCon is the place to be.
It's amazing.
Was that your first CatCon, or have you been there before?
Second. The rescue I volunteer with, who I was at the booth for, that was our second year. And the first year was like just your hair blown back by all of it, by all the good stuff and the volume of it.
I went many years ago, and I had thought about going a few times since, but hadn't. And so when I went, it was like, wow, this is like on a whole other level of what it had been and what it is now. And when I tell people about it, they're kind of like, what do you mean CatCon? I'm like, well, if you don't get it by me saying it, then you just won't get it.
Right. Well, but this year was especially wild and busy and all that because it was the 10th anniversary. So it was even more than the year before. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I was just astonished. I knew, looking at the list, how big it would be, but you go from one room to the next room and there's people waiting in line to get to booths. It was just kind of this, wow, as cat lovers, we really do love this. We love this bonding with fellow cat lovers, having fun, helping cats, all of that stuff. It was overwhelming, but so much fun. And how did that work out, for the rescue having a booth? Did it seem to help get a lot of education out there?
Yeah, for us, it's a combo of education, trying to reach some people, because the CatCon's in Pasadena, we're North San Diego County. So trying to reach some people who might come to see our adoption center, see our cats, visit our cuddle hours, on a visit from that part of town. And then also raising some funds, because we were selling some merch and all kinds of fun stuff. So it was good. For the second year in a row, it was worth it to be there for us. And yeah, a lot of that, though, is sort of spreading the word, meeting people like yourself, other vendors, other rescues, that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's great. So we will talk more about the rescue we keep mentioning. But first, I always like to start so listeners could get to know you a little better. So as someone who I know is obviously a cat lover, a cat mom now, have you always loved pets? Did you grow up with pets in your family?
Yeah, interesting. So I grew up with a dog, child to college-ish. My mother was still is allergic to cats. Ask me about the time she last visited and sat on one of the cat's pillows. So then I married a man who was allergic to cats. So it was just never really in the picture. But what happened was we lived in Long Beach, California for a long time, and we had a backyard cat. It was originally very feral. We couldn't even look at her. She'd run away. And by the end of our time in that house, she was very attached. We were very attached. We'd been feeding her. We went away one time for 3 days. And when we came home, she let out a meow that had to be like 45 seconds long. Like, where the hell have you been? And why? So we went, okay, we were moving to North San Diego County, and we're like, we have to take her. I don't know how this is going to work, but we have to do it. And lo and behold, my husband is no longer allergic.
It does change. I can
It does.
say I've always had allergies, very miserable. And where I live, there's a lot of agriculture around. So I've suffered. And when I was little, the test showed I was allergic to dogs, and we had dogs. So it was like, I'll just live with it because we're not getting rid of our dogs. But
Right.
a lot of times growing up, we do or don't have pets because of our parents or our family or
Right.
wherever we're living.
Right.
And oftentimes, who we're meant to be connected to, like your cat in the backyard, they find
Yeah.
you and show you, like, hey, we're meant to be family.
Yep. Yep. And that cat, I mean, changed my whole life, our lives. She was a senior, and we took her in, and it was only about a year and a half after she was living inside with us that she got sick. And so it was a little more than a year of kind of hospice care, and we finally had to let her go. But we just discovered how much we loved having cats around. So now we have 3, and I'm volunteering for the rescue. My husband has less time, but supports the things that I do with that.
I think until you have one, you don't realize that they're all unique. They have their own personalities, and you can really bond really closely with cats.
Yeah,
And it sounds
absolutely.
like that's what happened with you and your husband.
Yeah, we absolutely have. He'd always loved cats. I just didn't know much about them because, again, allergic mom. So, yeah, for him, it was sort of the fulfillment of a lifetime of really adoring cats. And for me, it was just this huge learning curve. But yeah, I love that sometimes they don't need you. Sometimes they do. And you get to know that, no, that's the hungry meow, and that's the I'm about to bite you meow, and all the different, they're fascinating.
Yeah, it's so funny. I recently we have 3 cats as well, and they have different meows for us versus each other. When I hear one of mine do a certain meow, I know she's talking to our oldest boy who she's always tried to love, and he's just like has no interest in her. And we're like, Frenchie, it's been 12 years, girl. When are you gonna take a hit and just stop bothering him?
I mean, all the vocalizations are fascinating because I'm sure you know the thing about that cats meow to humans. They don't actually, they evolved to meow to humans, but that's not how they communicate with each other. So one of our cats, he quacks more than he meows, but that sort of applies equally to cats and humans. But the others, yeah, the others have different sounds for each other than us. And it's endlessly fascinating. My big black cat, and he's very large. He's stretched out behind my computer now, and he's chattering at a bird out the window.
I love the chatter. When they do the chatter, we see ours do it with birds, or we have backyard cats. We have feral cats in our neighborhood, and we're one of the few yards without a dog right on the street. So they like to hang out here because they know they're safe. So, how did you go from a cat adopting you and you bringing her with you to your new home into volunteering and helping with a organization rescuing cats?
Yeah. So when we were going through our first cat's illness, in general with cats, you find a food they like and you buy a bunch and they then no longer like it. But triply so when they're sick, right? And they're not really wanting to eat and those sorts of things. So I kept having all of these extra supplies that I wanted to donate somehow. And I looked for a rescue and I found this one that was actually called Love Your Feral Felines. They go by Love Your Feral Felines, or the acronym LYFF, or Life Rescue. And I thought, well, I appreciate this feral feline and that I took in. And I don't know, they had an event nearby. I dropped some things off to them. I kept them in mind. And then they were supplying, they had cats at a cat cafe. We went a couple times because you get a nice coffee and you have your hour in playing with cats. And that was fun. And that was sort of a fun thing to do for family coming into town and things. And then when we finally had to say goodbye to our senior, we unlike a lot of people, and I know even my family sort of questioned it, we went right out and got kittens because it had been this year and a half of anticipation of this. And we felt like we had so much love to give, and we wanted cat joy in the house after all of that. So we got these two kittens, and we went and got them from this rescue and just love them to pieces. Still do. They're 5.5 now. And that all happened that was 2020. So that was during COVID. And things were different, as we all know at that point. And long about January 2021, I decided I want to see if I can volunteer. And so I got in touch with them. And what I do as a profession is I'm a writer. So I said, look, it's COVID. I'm not fostering, but I can write things for you. And so I started really slowly doing that. I was writing some bios for the adoptable cats, and I was doing things like, such and such as a former broadcaster for the National Kitten Soccer League and whatever. And then someone needed a bio for a person written, and then someone needed this and this, and it's just evolved. And I do a lot of writing. I do a bunch of presenting because our founder is actually tremendously camera shy. Thinks she's going to throw up if she's in front of a camera or in front of a group of people, but I can do that. So just a lot of different things. I foster some, I do some emergency kinds of things. I go to events like CatCon and work the booth and talk to people. I do these kinds of interviews, just sort of wherever I can be useful.
Right.
And what's nice is I've found it's fulfilling to do that and help save lives. Right? Because cat overpopulation problem, it takes all of us, and everything we can do helps. But I've also found a community, which, especially coming out of COVID, we had only been in this new city to us a couple years, hadn't really. So this has helped find some people. And not every one of us is in sync on every topic, but we all sure love cats, and we all sure appreciate what this rescue is doing. And that's really a wonderful thing to be able to have a community like that.
Two things you said. One is the community piece. And when I started this podcast back in 2021, I had no expectation of what was going to happen. But for me, it was connecting me with this community of people all over that, there are other people like me. We don't have human kids. We love our pets. We want to help more pets in our community. And that's turned into different ways of us helping. And I also think what you talked about is important for people to realize that if you want to help rescues or shelters in your area, that doesn't have to be fostering or volunteering inside. It can be, what are you good at? And can you do that for the rescue? Because they all need social media help. They need better photos taken. They need PR. There's so many things you can help with that it sounds like you've done so much of the communication and the writing, which all of those little things add up to more cats and kittens being adopted.
100%. And I make that point if I'm at events or if anyone ever asks about volunteering is sure, we're always saying, we need people to work a shift at our adoption center and take care of the cats, and we need fosters. But we need all kinds of things. We need people that can just run a cat back and forth from Oceanside to East County once in a while. We need people that are good at accounting or data entry, and we need people that are writers, and we need people that can be Mr. or Ms. Fix-It when a screw pops out of the wall at the adoption center. We have people who simply receive shipments of supplies and take them to the adoption center. The food, the litter, the weekly or biweekly shipments of that to keep us stocked up. Every little piece helps. And I think there are lots of people out there that can foster. There are not as many people out there that can research for and write grant applications, which is another piece of what I do. I try and everyone has a unique talent, and chances are a local rescue could use it.
Yeah, that's such a good point, because I know I often feel like, oh gosh, I wish I could be fostering right now too, and this, and I have volunteered, I have fostered. Pumpkin, who I mentioned earlier, is someone that she was one of 6 we fostered, and she's the one we adopted. But I also am running my own business and doing all these things. So podcasting is how it's easy for me to fit it in and help educate. And all rescues, no matter how small or big, need visibility. They need people to share. There's so many little things that you can help. That doesn't mean you're physically there or having to have fosters in your home. So talk a little bit about Love Your Feral Felines. What is their focus or goal within the community?
Yeah, well, we are an all-volunteer nonprofit cat rescue organization. We were founded, and hence the name, we were founded as basically a barn cat program. There was a woman 14 years ago who she, for her birthday, wanted to do something like for the community instead of just about herself. And she started volunteering at an animal shelter, and she became just horrified at the outcomes, lack of them really, for feral cats that were brought in. There's just no pathway out of a shelter where, for cats that can't really be adopted. So she founded our organization as a barn cat placement program and has had tremendous success. And a few years later, someone that she had worked with at the shelter left the shelter for, various reasons. Actually, I think it was to start a family mostly, but still wanted to be involved, wanted to have her own fostering program to do it the way she wanted. And so she joined with our founder, and together they're basically running it now. And so we added the foster and adoption program. And that's the biggest thrust of what we do right now. We have our own adoption center. It's a little tiny slot in a strip mall, but we can house about 30 cats. They're all free roaming. They're not in cages at all. We have one big room that's the teens and adults, and then a couple smaller ones for kittens or small groups that need different food or whatever it might be. But they all are roaming all the time, and we have different shifts that go in to take care of them. And so we probably adopt out 500, 700, 800 cats a year through the foster and adoption program, maybe more like 5 or 6. I think I always come out with a higher number, and someone else with the rescue who knows the data like, Tammy, write it down in. We have adoption events every couple weekends. The adoption center is open to the public on the weekends, but we also do a lot of other things. We have had in the past and will have again a low-cost spay and neuter program for the community. We do TNR work. We're working on rebuilding, again, we've had in the past, working on rebuilding it now, a TNR program that will help community members when they need some help. But we do practice the TNR on our own, sort of for volunteers who are willing to go out and do something or find a colony themselves and so on and so forth. We've also got educational material on the website. We try and go to events and educate the community too. There's not just one focus, but it's really the full circle solution, right? I mean, we can't foster and adopt our way out of the overpopulation crisis. You got to address the root of that somehow. So we're doing what we can as resources wax and wane, but it's always on our mind. So yeah.
Yeah, and here in California, and this isn't how it is in all states, cats are considered free roaming here. So city, county, municipal shelters often have different rules around whether they can even take in cats that people bring in. And the shelters where I live can only take cats or kittens if they are sick, injured, or too young to care for themselves. But just because they come into the shelter, that doesn't mean they have a good survival rate. Like you said, if it's a true feral cat and it's injured or sick and they help it get better, shelters don't have the time or the resources to get a feral to become adoptable. And I saw firsthand where a lot of times those ferals are the ones that end up on euthanasia lists when there's a lack of space. It breaks my heart because it is so overwhelming, the span of what the overpopulation crisis is. And I would say in our state, it's complicated by the feral aspect and people not understanding TNR and how important it is to trap and neuter and return. There's so many layers to it, but it sounds like your organization is really trying to help the community as much as it can within that whole circle of the issues that we face.
Absolutely. Yeah, as much as we can. Sometimes it feels like just a drop in a giant lake, but everyone, you do what you can. I mean, one of the philosophies I really like about our organization that our founders repeat is we save all the cats we responsibly can. And that's being responsible to the cats, and it's being responsible to the volunteers. Like we do everything we possibly can, but we don't hoard and we don't crowd sick cats together and whatever else it might be. We act responsibly for all living parties. And yes, does it break our hearts to not do more? Absolutely. But we can't keep doing it for years if we don't take care of ourselves and also.
Absolutely. And I think that is such a good perspective to have, that is to focus on what we can help and how many we can save versus how many we can't. Because
Right.
I think where we are in our country with overpopulation, there's always going to be more that need help.
Right.
But we've got saving 500 or 600 cats a year is huge. Those are 500
Right.
600 cats that would have multiplied times however many if you hadn't stepped in and fostered and spayed and neutered and got them adopted and all of those things.
Yeah. Yeah. An unneutered male and an unneutered female in 7 years can produce 420,000 cats. Just
It
from the
really is
two.
insane.
Just
Yep.
from the two. Yeah. We did a series of we actually had a panel discussion. We created a series of videos recently about the cat overpopulation problem. And we had a local veterinarian, one of our former partners, and she dropped a fascinating fact. I got to drop it just because it's so fascinating. She said cats are really, really good at reproducing. Female cats are induced ovulators. They don't have a cycle. If they get a whiff of a tomcat, they'll go into heat.
Wow.
Isn't that wild? No,
Yeah.
there are so many.
Yeah, because it literally, their body does it
Right.
on purpose.
Right. And that's how, they can get pregnant while they're nursing. They can get pregnant every 4 months, potentially, even if they have a litter. Just that's how the numbers can get that high. It's crazy.
Yeah, and one litter can be multiple dad cats.
Yeah,
I've seen that where when the cats are born, they're literally, you can tell they're at different ages, that some of them haven't developed as far, or they're very different color patterns or things like that.
The heartbreaking statistic is that only 1 in 4 kittens born outside survives to 6 months, because that one at 2 weeks had worms and fleas and probably borderline anemia and couldn't go that long without food and got 1 in 4. I mean, that's awful.
Yeah, and I think people don't realize also what the mom cats go through. Like he and is not pleasant. It's actually quite miserable for them. Getting pregnant is not a good thing for them. It's very hard on them. And it's also stress on them when they give birth.
So typically there's not a lot of food supply.
Mm-hmm.
And, we've seen sometimes mamas come in that are just emaciated and their kittens look great. The kittens might be kind of plump and happy, but mom is killing herself basically caring for these kittens.
Right.
Or sometimes the mom barely survives and the kittens don't because there isn't enough food. So they're just too many out there.
So many ways that it can go wrong. I think one thing that I've thought about doing at some point when I'm able to is you can also foster a mom cat and her kittens. Give her a safe place to raise her babies. You get to feed her and give her all the things she needs.
Yeah.
You can help her with the kittens, make sure they're gaining weight and keep an eye on them, because you don't have to do as much because you're not having to necessarily bottle feed. But that is a huge need, I think, for mom cats and their litters to have safe places to be able to grow up healthy and then give them a chance of finding adoptive homes.
Absolutely. Yeah, I took in a mama. I had her, I think it was only a week. For a lot of times I'm an interim stop for a week or a few days. Like, we need to get him now, but the foster isn't ready, so I'll take him. I had a mama she was skinny. She ate, I think, 3 cans of food when I first got her. Like, she was just so hungry. 8 kittens. 8 kittens. And they were all like 4 weeks old. So they were big and they're all on top. I have the most amazing picture of her propped up on her front legs, just looking at me like, make it end.
No, those poor mama cats, and a lot of them are really great moms. They need support. 8 kittens, that's a lot on a body.
It was a lot. Yeah. Yeah.
But I think that's an important point to make, that you don't even have to be a long-term foster. When we fostered Pumpkin and her siblings, which they were bottle babies. So let me tell you, it was a full-time job. Because it was like, I'd get to number 6 and number 1 was hungry again.
No, yeah. Well, and that many, yeah. We try and split up. Like, if it's a big litter and it's bottled, we try and 2 or 3 per person. Yeah.
Right. But sometimes, like you said, you just need somewhere for them to go for a couple days or for a week or even overnight. And I think also you mentioned transporting. Like, I know a lot of small rescues, they just need someone to pick it up from here, drive a half hour or an hour to get them to the next place. Like, those are huge resources that make it harder to move animals around to the people that can help.
Yeah, and as a rescue, we're so dispersed around San Diego, which is great, but it's also then challenging. I mean, I'm 45 minutes east of most people and all the way out to the coast and all of that. So yeah, it takes a whole community to get it done.
Right. Yeah, and I think some people probably that don't know, you hear about San Diego, but that San Diego County is huge. Same where I live in Kern County.
Yeah.
We have towns and cities in all directions, an hour, half hour from me. So our county shelter covers a huge span of places, and they
Yeah.
have limited resources. They can only do so much. And any way that someone can step up and reach out and say, hey, what help do you need as a shelter or a rescue? I am sure anyone you ask, they will always be taking donations as money, as supplies,
Yep.
as volunteers. Cleaning an adoption center or shelter a day gives staff time to do something else. Or, like you said, writing stories, taking photos, writing newsletters. There's so many ways that people can help.
Absolutely.
So if anyone is listening to this and wants to support Love Your Feral Felines, what would be the best way for them to support your organization, to get in contact with you, or whatever else?
Well, go to our website, which is loveyourferalfelines.com. We have a page. The donate page is where you can donate money if you want to do that. We also have wish lists for Amazon and Chewy for the supplies that we need all the time. There's a volunteer page that talks about all the different opportunities, and it'll focus again on fostering, working at one of the adoption centers. If you're interested at all, fill out the form and someone will talk to you. And you can say, look, I can't do these things, but I have a marketing background, or I have a business accounting background, or I have whatever background I might be able to help in some way. All of it is useful. So yeah, just reach out any way there is and follow us. Even if it's just follow us on social media and repost. We're posting every day. A lot of it is, here's our adoptable cat. Most days it's spotlighting an adoptable cat. Sometimes it's talking about coming to Cuddle Hour. That's another thing people could do if you're in the area to support. So we're open on the weekends from 12 to 5 every Saturday and Sunday, and we're open to the public. And there's a small donation, and you can spend an hour walking around all the rooms of the adoption center and playing with all the cats. So Cuddle Hours, and all of that money, every penny goes toward paying for their litter and their medicine and their food and all of that. So yeah, there are a whole bunch of ways, even if it's just sharing social media posts, helping us get more audience for the cute cats that are adoptable for whatever message we're trying to spread. You never know who that might know someone that wants to support or wants to come to Cuddle Hour or do a volunteer shift or something like that. So and all the social media games about engagement makes it easier for us to reach people.
The more something is shared, the more likely more people see it, and it's a domino effect. And I've seen there's some amazing volunteers at one of my local shelters, and really all they do is go in, get to know the animals, take videos and post it. And then I do my best going there and just reposting because we've seen people come from Southern California, out of state to adopt a dog because it was a certain breed they're looking for, or they just fell in love over social media. You never know what could happen. And luckily, we do have the power of social media now versus even 5 or 10 years ago. It's a big, powerful tool.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, it's a blessing and a curse. You live and die by it. But yeah.
And it's one more thing to do for a rescue is to post and all of that.
Yeah, well, and that you were saying, people come in, take videos, take photos. Please, if you have any skills and you're interested in that, we always need that. We've got volunteers doing their shifts and playing with the cats and checking them for medical issues and scooping the litter and cleaning the whatever, filling the food bowls. And we're also asking them to try and get some videos or try and get some photos of these cats. And so we're always struggling for good representations, video or photo of different cats. And there's so many needs that people don't think about.
Yeah. And all of those little things add up. I've seen professional photographers volunteer for rescues and shelter because in the shelters, they just take a photo when it comes in and then they do this and so, especially with kittens, they grow so fast. You may be looking at an intake photo from 4 weeks ago and it doesn't even look like the same kitten. And all of that helps people want to adopt and all of that. So any
Yeah.
way someone can help, even if you think it's little, every little bit helps, especially small rescues like yours that are all volunteer run.
100%. Yeah. Because we don't have actual staff, again, everything is sort of a cycle. Sometimes we're more on top of it and engaged, and sometimes we're scrambling going, oh no, we haven't ever posted this cat and we need to get something up and we got to do it now. Every tiny piece helps. We have a
Yeah.
fun time with each other at events and at the adoption center, and even just on our internal messaging, talking about things. So it's a fun group. And I'm sure it's
Yeah,
the same for all rescues and
Yep.
organizations. You get people with a shared goal there, and it's nice.
And also in California, especially us in the more southern areas, yes, there is a quote kitten season where it does seem to get busier, but really kitten
Yeah.
season is all year long because
It is.
it doesn't get super cold and we don't have snow in a lot of areas. So kittens are constantly mating and creating
Yeah.
more. So small cat rescues really need support because it is an all year round process that it's constantly coming, new kittens and cats are coming in.
It's true. And the thing I didn't mention is adoption. Please, if you want to adopt a cat or kitten, come to us. Kitten season doesn't really stop. Adoptions have high and low seasons, and we are in the low season now, which is tough. We got all these sweet cats. So if you know anyone who's looking for a cat in Orange County, San Diego County, Riverside County, send them our way.
Yes, what I've been seeing with the economy and everything getting more expensive, adoptions are going down for that as well. And support a rescue by paying an adoption fee. Not only are you getting an amazing cat or kitten that has probably been socialized in some way, you're getting an animal that has been taken care of, their health has been taken care of. So you aren't coming in blind with not knowing.
Well, even just the cost of spay and neuter today to go to your local vet. Our adoption fee, I'm pretty confident, is less than a lot of spay and neuter fees at local veterinarians. No offense to them, it's just everything's expensive. Working as a rescue, we can get it done a little more cost effectively. But yeah, when you adopt from us, you're getting spayed and neutered, vaccinated, socialized, vetted, like they're good to go. You shouldn't have any of those big costs. So I'm going to buy one from a breeder and I have to do all the work.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of times rescues have covered those costs. And so you don't have to take them to the vet for a year to get their next vaccine. And yeah, I've seen spay and neuter is like a couple $100 at a vet. And it's not that the vets are gouging you. It just, that's what it costs because of the medicine and the time they're taking care of the animal, where you can get a really discounted rate, especially if it's a spay and neuter clinic. Sometimes they're free. Sometimes they're $20 or $30 or $50. And so if you're listening to this, even if you're not in one of the areas we're talking about, check out your community, because most communities, whether it's a nonprofit or a city or county shelter, has some type of program with reduced costs for vaccines and spay and neuter. Because no matter what, we want the animals spayed and neutered. They live longer, they're healthier, and you don't have to worry about unwanted litters.
Please, everyone, if there's one thing you take away from this, please spay and neuter your pets.
Yes, and it's one of the things that doing this podcast, I've realized it's really a lack of understanding and education. You don't know what you don't know. Yeah. And I've learned so much about, when you spay or neuter a pet, dogs and cats, you're reducing the risks of several cancers. Yeah. Spay and neutered pets live longer. And you're also, the younger you do it, the easier it is for them to heal. And I've seen kittens be like, what? I had a surgery today. I'm fine. I'm chasing things around.
Yeah.
Well, Tammy, thank you so much for being here and sharing a little bit of your experience and how you came to be a proud cat mom.
Yes.
And working with the rescue Love Your Feral Feline. Sounds like you guys are doing a lot of amazing work for the cats and kittens in your community. I will put all the links in the show notes. Please follow, share, and support in any way that you can.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Story of My Pet podcast. I appreciate you listening and supporting the podcast. And if you haven't already, wherever you are listening to this episode, make sure you hit follow or subscribe and leave us a rating or review. All of that helps the podcast grow and get to even more listeners and help us educate and advocate for animals in need around the world. If you haven't done so already, make sure to check out our YouTube channel, Story of My Pet Podcast. Again, hit the subscribe button. Give us some likes and comments on our videos, and that will help the podcast grow on YouTube. Thank you so much for being here, and much love to you and your pets.